Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tony Arenas. I am your product specialist for this video, and today we're going to go over the pen tool in Photoshop. So the pen tool in Photoshop is a great way for you to isolate certain objects that are not being that are harder to select when it comes to using your usual selection tools, whether it be your quick selection tool or your magic wand. It's a great way to isolate everything, and then that way you can actually do the selection to where you want it. So let's go ahead and dive right in with the actual pen tool. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here. And we're going to take a look at this actual cab. So the idea here is to sit down anchor points, and then each anchor point allows you to set a line that goes across everything that you're working through. So when I actually set down another line over here, this is going to be that anchor point that moves from one A to another. Now, at any time, if I feel like any of these settings are too hard to see, there's a wonderful option here that they added in for the actual pen tool, and then I can actually pick the actual point size I actually want to run with. So I can actually make these a little bit bigger, a lot easier to see if I choose to. Depending on how you want it to go through, I can even change the color if I wanted to. Just so that way you're not constantly trying to figure out if it's working or not, and you can whether you can see it or not. So next step here that I have is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a curve to this so I can actually have it closer to the wheel well itself. So when I actually click, I want to click and drag this out. And what it's going to do is it's going to give me two handles, and these handles here will actually affect the line that I'm working with. So this handle here is going to affect the line that's closest to it. So this one right here. This one's going to affect the next line as we go along. So when I actually click across, it's going to give me a little bit of that curve that I'm going through along the bottom of there. If I choose to, I can actually click and drag, but I have to account for both lines. So this handle right here and the one that I'm creating here. So there is a bit of trying to figure out how that's going to play out. So if I choose to, and I want to say, all right, look, I'm at an anchor point here. I want to create a line that goes all the way across. In Illustrator, you're able to click on this anchor point here, and then you're able to shoot it across your way. But when you actually click on it in Photoshop, it's not going to work. Unless you hit Alt and then click on the anchor point, then it deletes the other handle, and then I can go back to making straight lines without affecting the line across. So the main thing with this is you want to create as little anchor points as possible while you're canvassing your entire work. The idea is so that way you're not constantly, if you need to make any adjustments, dealing with multiple hundreds of anchor points. So if I'm actually, give you a bad example here, if I do, let's do this. So let's say I want to do very little anchor points reaching up to this point. This right here, this cluster right here is going to be very difficult to adjust if I need to make any adjustments. So that's why you want to use as very little anchor points throughout your adjustments, so that way you can actually do everything you want it and adjust things very easily and fluidly. Now, at this point, when you get to areas like this where you have a little bit of a blend in the color, a little bit of blend between the object and the foreground or the background, at that point, it's artist's discretion. You can either decide whether or not you're actually going to go ahead and have that in there, or if you want to try to minimize it and get that out of the way. So a little bit of a balance is not bad, but you get the idea. You're able to readjust things accordingly depending on how you want it to go. So this is that part is really up to you. So without wasting any time, I actually have this actually selected. So what I did was earlier I made this actual work path work through, and then I double clicked on this work path and I changed it into yellow cab. So in this case I'm just not going to do that because I actually have this here, and I have an actual selection with my yellow cab, and then I can go from here. So I also realized there's a little bit of a correction here where I have these little like things popping up. It's on this side, but I forgot to select it on this side. If I need to, I can always go to my pen tool. I can go add an anchor point tool, and what I'm going to do is add 3 anchor points. And then what I'm going to do here is take my selection tool, click on it, and I can bring this up. See, it's a little bit harder to see in those colors, and like I said, it's really artist discretion on how you want that to come through. So now that I have that there, I can go ahead and right click on this, make my selection, and then with the selection I can add a little bit of pixel feathering into the edge if I wanted to. That's fine if you don't. Once you do, go ahead and add that there, and you have your selection for your object. Now, if I already have a selection in my object from another project, or if I'm working on a project and I made a selection with my selection tool, and I realize I want to save this selection as a work path, all I have to do is use any of the selection tools, right click on it, make a work path. You have a little bit of tolerance here. You can add in about 2 or 3 pixels if you wanted to, but 0.5 is the lowest you can go. And what it's going to do is it's going to actually create those work paths as you go. And then from here, I can double click on that and save it as an actual path. So that's there as well. Now, if you did have it so that, let's say it's already masked out, you already have a mask to it, and you're like, oh wait, I want to save that mask. Same thing. You can always right click on here, add mask to selection, and then when you have that there, make a work path and so forth. All right. So again, the pen tool is great for you when you need to isolate things, when your selection tools aren't working to the best of your ability. It'll allow you to add in those selections that you need to and just trace things around when you need it. All right. Once again, my name is Tony Arenas, and this has been the pen tool in Photoshop.